Hi everyone, Elliot Jacobson here. It is August 9th, 2021, and we now have the IPCC report in hand. So that's the big news of the day, and pretty much anywhere you look, people are talking about this report. So I just want to talk about a few things with it today. Look, there are great, fantastic, fabulous experts out there who are making YouTube videos and going on social media and on TV shows talking about this thing. I am no such expert. So what I want to do is take you through what I can tell you about this thing. And I do have a couple things that are maybe you'll find mildly interesting to discuss. If we go to ipcc.ch, that's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, this is their homepage. And if you click on Working Group 1, which are the folks who just did the report, you get this page. And then it gives you all sorts of other links you can click on. Well, these links just take you further down the web page, so you can actually just scroll rather than click on one of those. And probably what you want to look at is this summary for policymakers. Now, what's interesting in this are these headline statements. Because as you read all these articles in media around the world, what you find over and over again is that they are just reciting these sort of pre-approved media statements. It is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere. All right, so it is all over media today that the first three words the IPCC said are, "It is unequivocal." Well, you could just say it's a fact that, it's well known that, we have known for a long time that, or forget those words altogether. You don't need that. To start with, human influence has warmed the atmosphere. We are a heat engine. Civilization is a heat engine. Of course, human influence has warmed the atmosphere, all right? You don't need to say it's unequivocal, because then people might say, well, maybe it's equivocal. Is that a word, equivocal? It is not worth putting any conditions in front of that statement. Period. Human influence has warmed the atmosphere. Be done with it. At any rate, read through some of these and you will see a lot of the things you're reading or hear reporting on in your local news. I don't want to go through this stuff with you, but there it is for you. All right, let's download the summary for policymakers, and this is a larger PDF, and this is where all the meat is. So let me just show you a couple things in this that I found interesting. I don't want to get too far into this. The first one are these graphs on page 7. So if we look at this graph right here, this is current global surface temperature compared to the the baseline 1850 to 1900, which is sort of the standard baseline that the IPCC has been taking all along. And we can kind of see where they put us at about 1.2 right now is more or less the point. But what I want to just point out, and I made this comment before, is anybody who talks about a 1750 baseline, that baseline does not exist. A baseline is never one single year. Moreover, 1750 is before we had decent global measurements for temperature, so that we're just making approximations. You see this sort of fuzzy area? That's sort of the unknown. We don't know what those temperatures were back in 1750 to any reliable degree. We're also in the middle of something called the Little Ice Age. So you notice how temperatures sort of ran constant here for about 1400 years. Then they took a dive by almost half a degree. That's the Little Ice Age. So if you base the effect of global industrial civilization on a temperature from 1750 for 1 year that happened to have been a cold year, and say that's our baseline, it's just a crazy thing to do. So anybody who says a 1750 baseline, discount that. It is meaningless to do that. Let's all just agree 1850 to 1900, that nice long period of years where we can average those together, that's the baseline. We can all be on the same page together. It doesn't matter what baseline we pick. Let's just go with what the IPCC, how many C's did I say, uses, and that'll be fine. Any rate, kind of an amazing graph even then, isn't it? Right, the next one I want to show you is this page right here, which is just page 9. And in particular, these are the contributions to warming that we are having in our climate. And there are certain things that are warming the climate and certain things that are cooling the climate. So here we see that methane is accounting for roughly about 0.8 degrees C. Did I say methane? I mean carbon dioxide. Methane for about half a degree C. So these are things that are contributing net warming. And this is an error bar. So this is sort of an unknown region. And you never know these things fully, completely. So I appreciate an error bar. I'm a statistician. I like that. And what we see down here, though, as we go to the right, is this large blue bar going downward. So that is a net cooling effect. And what is doing that net cooling effect? It is sulfur dioxide. Well, sulfates. So these come almost exclusively from burning fossil fuels. This is pollution from fossil fuels. So automobiles create lots of sulfates in their exhaust. And we see that here. They are saying that they are contributing about half a degree to global cooling right now. So if you take all of these positive effects and then subtract away the negative effects, you get to that 1.2 degree Celsius reading. So if we were to stop fossil fuels today, if we were to say, hey, let's all stop driving cars, let's stop burning our fossil fuels, then pretty much what would happen is in a matter of days to weeks, these sulfates would precipitate out of the atmosphere. And we would see this half a degree C, right, almost a full degree Fahrenheit of warming taking place. And it would be almost instantaneous, right? This would be catastrophic for the planet. Anybody who says we need to stop burning fossil fuels immediately does not understand that that is essentially calling for the collapse of the planet, not in the long run, not having 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, but having a month or 6 weeks. This is absolutely devastating. So if somebody says we have to stop burning fossil fuels, I mean, a good question to ask is, yeah, and what are you going to replace those aerosols with? What other aerosols are you going to stick up in the atmosphere to give us that same net cooling effect? Because we're still going to have that carbon dioxide. It lasts a century. We're still going to have that methane. It lasts at least a decade, right? So these things aren't going away. So if you suddenly strip away the sulfur dioxide, poof. This is a common fallacy used by people who come up with false solutions, that we can just suddenly stop. We can transition away from fossil fuels to electric, to solar, right? To those sorts of things. Yeah, you can transition, but hey, big problem. These things are already in our atmosphere. So go ahead and do your transition and don't put any more of this stuff. We're going to have a real disaster on our hands, and very quickly. But probably the one that you are thinking about the most here are these SSPs, and these things are called shared socio-economic pathways. I have to get those words correctly, these SSP models. So there are different models for sort of future use of fossil fuels. You know, how quickly can we mitigate, can we transition away from things that are driving global warming, right? And if you look at these models, keep in mind that the CO2 has been steadily increasing. In fact, it's been on an exponential rise even over the last couple of years as we've moved more and more towards trying to eliminate these things. And we had COVID, right? So for a while, nobody was driving, right? So even then, these things have been going up and up and up. But these three bottom pathways, these pathways that are sort of the most optimistic, show that we will immediately, as of this day, cut our use of CO2, right? We're going to stop it today. We're going to cut our emissions, right? Whereas these sort of more realistic ones, at least for the next, if you look down here, these are by 5-year increments. They're saying at least up until about 2025 or 2030, let's expect that we have the same amount or a little bit more fossil fuels, CO2 going into the atmosphere. So these are just a subset. There's going to be a whole spectrum of models coming out eventually. These are just a couple sample ones. But what I want to show you are the expectations for temperature increase based on these. And this is on page 19 in the summary for policymakers. So remember, these top three models are not going to happen. These are impossibilities. They are not going to happen, right? We are not decreasing. We are not stopping. First of all, we can't stop because of the aerosol masking effect. That'll cause at least half a degree C rise immediately. And second, we're not going to stop because we're not stopping, right? People are still driving. They're driving and flying more than ever right now. You hear that all the time, people talking about, or stories about how travel has increased, how mileage has increased, how more coal plants are being created, and on and on. So let's just stick with the facts. The facts are that one of these two scenarios is what we're going to live with right here. And if history is any guide, it'll be worse than the worst one that they have indicated here. So let's just look at that worst case scenario that they are talking about here, SSP 5, 8.5. So the best estimate is that in the period, that the average temperature over the period 2020 to 2040, so we're talking about their average temperature here, will be 1.6 C. So during that period, roughly going from 1.3 to 1.9, right? That in the period from 2040 to 2060, we will see a rise from 1.9 to 3. And from 2081 to 2100, we're going to see about a 4.4 as our best estimate. So we are talking about unsurvivable in the near term. This is unsurvivable right here. And just to, again, put this in context, if we were to stop fossil fuels and we're at 1.2 today, we would immediately jump to 1.7. So if we were to stop fossil fuels, we would already jump past the estimates, any of these estimates that are made for the period 20 up to 2040, even in their worst case scenario. All right, so when we think about these models, have in mind these worst case estimates, because history has always shown that as far as the IPCC is concerned, we do worse than their worst case. Well, all right, everybody. I hope that that has been sobering for you. It is certainly for me. I am not a great reporter of these sorts of things. I am not somebody who wants to go out and dig into this and give you some critical analysis. That's not what this is about for me. These are diaries, right? This is emotional for me, right? This is me finding ways to relieve the stress that I am going through in the midst of a worldwide climate collapse, in the midst of the decline of global industrial civilization, as I have children, as I have grandchildren, as I have my own life and things that I hope to do. So I am profoundly sad. I am profoundly sad by this report, and just where it puts us right now as far as the future of the planet. This is not good. This report is as bad or worse than it could have possibly been. And we have to keep in mind that it's a conservative estimate, that these guys are conservative. All right, everybody. This is Elliot Jacobson. See you later.